We got some breaking news on the railroad industry, and Becky Quick joins us right now on the Squawk Newsline. Becky, what's going on?
Hey, Andrew. Great to talk to you guys. Look, I've got some incremental news that pushes the story forward a little bit from what we were talking about yesterday. First of all, if you take a look at a 5-day chart of CSX shares, just want to point out what's been happening over the last few days. Yesterday, that stock closed down 5% on a report when I called in to talk about what Warren Buffett told me, that Berkshire Hathaway is not interested in buying a railroad right now. But if you look back a few days, you'll see that that stock was also down more than 3% on Friday. That came on an announcement that BNSF and CSX were partnering up so that they could offer some of the benefits of a transcontinental rail line through cooperation without buying it outright. And there was still some speculation after that Friday announcement, some speculation on Wall Street that maybe this was a precursor to a deal. Buffett made that clear yesterday that no, they're not in the market, at least not right now, to be buying a railroad, not interested in that, and they made that very clear. But there's an activist out there at CSX, Ancora. It's been putting some pretty heavy pressure, demanding that CSX pursue talks with BNSF and Canadian Pacific. And there's been some hint that, CSX had not been interested in talking with UNP. Well, what I can tell you today is that CSX never had an opportunity to talk with UNP. UNP did not reach out. Union Pacific did not reach out to CSX until after it already had an exclusive arrangement with Norfolk Southern, because that's been kind of what's been passed around on this idea that CSX was not interested in doing a deal. That's not the case. The issue is you need to have a willing buyer. Union Pacific was already locked up with Norfolk Southern in this exclusive arrangement. Berkshire Hathaway has said that it's not interested. The other railroad that Ancora has been pushing is Canadian Pacific, but that might have a tougher time actually trying to get a deal done with the Trump administration. Part of the reason I wanted to talk to you guys today and point this out is you've got Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, coming up. Last week on Squawk on the Street, Howard Lutnick addressed this issue. David Faber brought it up to him and addressed this issue of whether the Trump administration would sign off on a merger of a transcontinental railroad. It's a big deal. We haven't seen a joint purchase going all the way back to 1999. You did have Canadian Pacific being able to merge with a very small railroad, Kansas City, in 2023. But before that, you had to go back to 1999 to the joint purchase of Conrail by CSX and Norfolk. And that's because there have been real questions about how few railroads we want in this country. The Trump administration is going to be able to weigh in on this. The National Surface Transportation Board is there at this point. And there's been this idea that maybe this administration would be more open to that. But when Lutnick was on Squawk on the Street last week, he said he was going to stay out of it, that it would make sense for it to be easier to get rail freight across the entire country without having a 2 or 3 day pause in the middle of the country where you had to switch lines. But at the time, he said he didn't think it would matter whether it was going to be cooperation, whether you had these types of partnerships that we've now heard that BNSF and CSX are involved in, or if it would be a merger, but he was going to leave that to the others. But you guys do have him coming up later today, and I thought it'd be interesting to get a little more from him on that point.
Becky, there's so much to discuss with him, and we'll definitely want to add this to this. My other question for you on this broader topic is, has Buffett's interest in the exposure he's got to the sector at the moment diminished, or he's just not interested in full control?
No, I don't think so at all. In fact, when I talked with him yesterday, he pointed out that Berkshire Hathaway and BNSF through Berkshire Hathaway has pretty unlimited resources when it comes to what they can spend to try and make it easier to get things put across the country in a transcontinental railroad. His point was you can do that through cooperation. You don't need to actually buy each other or merge those two companies to be in a position to do that. And I think that's what all of the CEOs involved have kind of seen on that. Joe Henricks is CEO at CSX, and he sat down with both Warren Buffett and Greg Abel at Berkshire Hathaway, and I think they've had a lot of cooperation. That's what that announcement they put out last Friday was pointing to. They have unlimited funds, Buffett said, if there are deals that make sense, if there are things they want to do with the railroad, and they would be willing to commit that capital to it. So I don't think this is a backing away from it, but I think it's a big question about how much you want to pay for something like this. Remember, CSX shares were up more than 8% since back in July when Semaphore first reported that UNP was looking for a merger partner back in July. I think that's the point, is that the stock has run up on this anticipation that there was going to be an offer that came. But I think you got to look around to see where those offers are going to come from, because the potential partners, at this point at least, are saying no thanks.
But Becky, if the stock were to drop on the back of the news that there is no offer, let's just say
and it has.
a couple
It's
months
down
go
back.
by, and it goes lower, do you think that could
I would never say never.
revive
I think
interest
a much lower price
if there was
would be a difference. I think a much lower price would be a difference. Remember when Berkshire Hathaway bought Burlington Northern, it was because of the financial crisis. There were huge issues that were taking place, and stocks were much lower at that point. So I think any deal is possible at a certain price, but that price is probably nowhere near where it is now.